Welcome to Tasting with Matt and Mike. This week we are going to do Michter's Bourbon, Michter's Toasted Bourbon, and the Michter's 10-year-old. Michter's is a old brand that started in Pennsylvania. The brand was there for centuries. Well, Michter's wasn't there, but the distillery was there for centuries. Mm-hmm. It started off as Shanks and then Baumburgers, and then eventually in the 1950s they created Michter's. Michter's is simply the name of the owner's two sons, taking Michael and Peter and putting it together to create Michter's.
Interesting.
Yes. And the brand went belly up in the late 80s, early 90s. The new owners picked up the brand for a song because it was abandoned. Mm-hmm. And Joe Malioco from Chatham Imports is the company that bought them. And he bought the brand because he used to sell it when he first started into the industry, and he had a fondness for the brand and everything, so he purchased the brand and bought some bulk whiskey and started making Michter's Rye, Sour Mash, and bourbon. And he then moved into his next stage to where they started contract distilling. He hired Willie Pratt from Brown-Forman to be his distiller, mm-hmm. and they came up with the recipe and created the next phase. And the last phase is that they've actually built a distillery here in Kentucky. It's about 4 years old now. They've been making whiskey, and they've also opened a visitor center using the original Michter's pot stills from Pennsylvania, mm-hmm. down on Main Street here in Louisville. And
is it Fort Nelson?
Fort Nelson
right.
building, yes.
It's a beautiful, beautiful distillery.
Right, great bar too.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the bourbon. This bourbon is 91.4 proof. There is no age statement, but they use heated warehousing to age their whiskey, both with their contract distiller and with what they're doing now. This is all going to be whiskey that was contract distilled. One of the things that makes it very unique is the fact that it has a very low barrel entry proof of 103.
103, wow.
Yes. And they always age it to taste, not necessarily years.
Okay.
So this could be anywhere from, there's no age statement, so it's at least 4 years old.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it could be anywhere from 4, 5, 6-year-old whiskey. Low barrel entry proof. And
do you know where they got it, by chance? Where they get their whiskey from?
Well, they've got a non-disclosure agreement with the people that are doing the contract distilling.
Okay. But,
Willie Pratt came from Brown-Forman. Brown-Forman has heated warehouses. You kind of get the suspicion that that's probably...
might be where it's coming from.
All right, might be where it's coming from. So let's nose this. Lots of caramel.
Mm-hmm. Very sweet.
Very sweet. Lots of oak. Little bit of vanilla. A little bit of a fruitiness.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Ripe apple or pear? Or
getting like a pear.
Yeah. Just a hint of some spices.
Maybe like a baking spice.
Yeah, baking something like a nutmeg or a cinnamon or
mm-hmm.
an allspice, something along those. So let's taste it.
Okay. Oh, that's good. That's really sweet.
It's a really nice.
Yeah. It's got like I'm getting pear.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little hint of cherry. And then, like caramel, sweet caramel. Peppery finish, little oak.
Little oak.
Yeah.
But it's not a real strong pepper.
No, it's just it's a slight pepper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Delicious.
So let's see what a cranberry does for it. That really brings out the fruit, doesn't it?
And it kind of turned it into like a ripe apple.
Yeah, ripe apple.
Yeah.
The baking spice is
bacon.
Definitely a little cinnamon, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, a little cinnamon, like a cinnamon apple pie almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Very
nice.
good. Very nice.
Let's try it with a pecan. Well, that really brings out the caramel.
Makes it like rich and creamy.
Mm-hmm.
Took away the fruit for the most part.
Right.
Still a little sweet. Brought out the finish, nice oaky.
And a little more pepper on the
A
finish.
little more pepper, yeah. Black pepper finish.
Yeah,
Very nice.
very nice. Great bourbon, just to enjoy neat, but you could, it's fairly affordable. It's, in the $40, $40 to $50 range. Great stuff.
I think for $40, this might be one of my top three. Like,
Yeah.
I like the rye. The Michter's rye is really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is solid. This is
Yeah.
really good.
Can't complain about that at all.
We know how Rosemary feels about Michter's.
Yeah. Rosemary is one of Michter's biggest fans, I think. So the next thing we have is the toasted barrel finish bourbon. It's also 91.4 proof. It's a limited release. You can find it in the stores, but it's hard to find right now until they release some more. It's more expensive. This will probably cost you in the $80 to $100 if you can find it actually in the store. So in the secondary market, it's going to be even more. But very good. So what they do is they take their regular bourbon and then they put it in a barrel that has been not charred but toasted heavily.
Okay.
And they let it age for a while longer in that toasted oak.
So when they toast it versus char, what exactly do they do to toast it?
Well, the difference between toasting and char is they don't let the barrel catch on fire. They just heat the wood until the heat kind of breaks down some of the wood, but it doesn't create that char level.
Okay.
It'll have a lot less tannins in it that way, and it will still have a lot of the sugars and such that have been caramelized.
Okay.
So let's smell this. Very different.
It's a mellower.
A little mellower, and the caramel's almost like a butterscotch. Not as much fruit. I can still get a little fruit in there, but it's not as heavy as the regular bourbon. The caramel butterscotch really dominates the nose. A little oak.
Just a hint of oak there, yeah.
Yeah. So let's taste it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm getting like creamy caramel. Yeah, getting the butterscotch.
Almost like a salted caramel.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's not really much fruit, so it's not really that sweet, It's,
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
Just really good.
Little oak.
Look.
Just a little bit of that pepper, but to me it's more of a white pepper than a black pepper. A little more floral.
Yeah, what is that floral note?
I'm not sure.
Maybe like a honeysuckle, maybe?
Honeysuckle, I could see that. caramel.
It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
it's really,
Yeah.
and it's almost like a caramel roll.
Yeah. Oh, and I
A
love
sweet-
caramel
yeah,
rolls.
sweet
Yeah.
So let's try it with the cranberry and see what happens.
Right, that gave me a little bit of a citrus note.
Yeah.
An orange citrus, but it's more like creamsicle orange.
Yeah.
It's still like that caramelly, nice and smooth.
I think it brings more of the caramel out on the finish too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not quite as dry.
It's not dry. It's not super. It's not peppery. Yeah. Very good.
Very nice.
Good mellow flavor. You know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with a pecan and see what happens.
There's where you get like the toasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really brings out that butterscotch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a fruit to it, but I'm almost wanting to say almost like a banana.
Hmm.
Kind of like a
Interesting.
bananas Foster type thing, you know, with
Okay.
the caramel and banana and
Mm-hmm.
mm.
You get like in the finish, you get like that toasted oak,
Mm.
and yeah, it's not like probably because of the pecan, but it's like it tastes like a toasted nut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice.
So the final one we have here is the Michter's 10-year-old. Now, it has a 10-year-old age statement, but I do know from Michter's they do it by taste.
Mm-hmm.
So this may actually be 11, 12 years old. At least some of the whiskey in it. Actually, this is a single barrel bourbon, so it's going to be at least 10 years old, but like I said, it could be 11 or 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they go by taste, not necessarily years or time.
I like that idea.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd rather you put the flavor first.
Yes.
Than the age.
Yeah, and Michter's doesn't spare any expense when making their bourbon. They just want to make the finest bourbon they can make. They don't cut any corners anywhere.
Mm-hmm. You can definitely tell.
Yes.
Because we've had plenty of Michters, and it's always been like
Always good.
always one of the best. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's nose this one. A lot more oak.
Mm-hmm. Which you'll get from 10 years in the
Right.
barrel.
There's that caramel still, but there's also that fruit. In this case, I definitely think it's ripe apple.
Definitely, yeah.
Just a hint of those baking spices still.
Mm-hmm. I would still go with like a cinnamon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's taste it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Similar to the first one, but on the finish is where this one really shines for me. I get like that wonderful oak, you know, like that 10-year-old oak that you know, like that you only get with older bourbons, you know. Get that right on the finish. It's absolutely delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm getting almost a buttery finish.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice mouthfeel.
Yeah.
So let's see what a cranberry does. brings out that apple.
Mm-hmm. Nice sweet apple.
Mm-hmm.
I think it went from ripe, yeah, maybe to like a red delicious for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very flavorful apple with a little caramel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even getting a little like a hazelnut or nuttiness to it too.
Yeah, kind of towards the back, towards the finish. Yeah.
And the spice definitely becomes more of a pepper,
Mm-hmm.
particularly on the finish.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Now we talked about why you do cranberries and pecans.
well, we do cranberries and pecans because we want to see what something sweet does to it, and then what something tannic, like nuts or chocolate or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're all going to have a different effect on the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try this.
And often, if it goes really well with the cranberry, you'd say that would make like a good old fashioned because it gives that
Or
fruit-
Manhattan.
Manhattan. Mm-hmm.
Well, that even brings out the butter and the taste. Very thick, mouthfeel, just almost,
Mhm.
Almost chewy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm getting just a
Yeah,
little
it's
note
really
of
good.
chocolate there with that pecan too.
A little like dark chocolate maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And particularly in the finish, that the oak and the chocolate and that little bit of peppery spice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me this one really wins over in the finish. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
You get a lot of that oakiness, and it turns into like the dark chocolate when you have it with a pecan. It really enhances the finish a lot.
Yeah.
Overall these are just really, really fine products.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and in every price range,
Yes.
in every price range, it's great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the 10-year-old's going to set you back $150
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
store, and
Yeah.
on the secondary market, they'll go anywhere from 150 to $300 probably.
Mm-hmm.
But great,
Man,
great bourbon.
really good.
So next week we're talking about doing the Weller products with Weller Special Reserve, Weller Antique, and Weller Full Proof. So until next week, cheers.
Cheers.